All right, so welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
And today we're going deep into a story that really has it all. Religion, politics, and even some financial intrigue.
Yeah.
All centered around a figure that I'm sure a lot of you know, Tulsi Gabbard.
Right. But this story goes deeper than just Gabbard.
Way deeper.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at court documents, news articles. We're even going to be looking at some firsthand accounts. Just kind of trying to unravel this complex web of relationships and allegations.
This is going to be good.
Yeah.
We're going to be exploring the intersection of Gabbard's political journey
Right.
with a group called the Science of Identity Foundation.
Yeah.
SIF.
Yeah. SIF for short.
So for our listeners who maybe aren't as familiar, most of you probably know Tulsi Gabbard, congresswoman, presidential candidate, military service.
Right. She's been around.
Yeah. But to understand the controversies surrounding her, we need to look at SIF.
Yeah.
And its leader, Chris Butler.
Who also goes by Jagat Guru Siddhaswarpananda Paramahamsa.
Whoa.
It's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
Yeah.
So SIF, they have roots in Vaishnava Hinduism.
Right, which you might associate with the Hare Krishna movement.
Okay.
But SIF has its own distinct identity.
Interesting.
And they've faced persistent accusations of being a cult.
Okay, so cult accusations, those are pretty serious.
Yeah, they are.
What are those accusations based on?
So former members allege that SIF demands complete obedience to Butler.
Oh, wow.
And that there are some questionable financial practices happening within the organization.
Oh.
These allegations are something we'll be exploring a lot more later in the deep dive.
I'm fascinated already.
Yeah.
So this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Tulsi Gabbard, she has a lifelong connection to Butler and SIF.
Right.
Her family's been involved with the group for decades.
A long time.
A long time.
And that connection, it runs deep. Gabbard has spoken pretty positively about her upbringing within SIF, describing her childhood, spent among SIF disciples, and her education in SIF-run schools in the Philippines.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a stark contrast to what we've heard from former members, some of whom describe it as controlling and manipulative.
Right.
So how do we reconcile these two very different narratives?
That's the challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's crucial to listen to both sides of the story and weigh the evidence carefully.
Absolutely.
Later on, we're going to be diving into some of those firsthand accounts from former members.
Okay.
And examining what their experiences reveal about SIF.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
So Gabbard identifies as a Vaishnava Hindu, and her faith clearly plays an important role in her life. This leads us to another layer of our deep dive, allegations of financial impropriety that have been leveled against SIF.
Yeah.
And to understand that, we need to introduce a company called QNet.
Okay.
Have you heard of QNet?
I have, yeah.
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar, QNet is a multi-level marketing company, meaning its business model relies on a network of individuals selling products and recruiting new members.
Yeah, kind of like a pyramid structure.
Yeah.
In a way.
So how does QNet fit into this whole story of Tulsi Gabbard and SIF?
Well, one of QNet's co-founders, Joseph Bismarck, he's a follower of Chris Butler.
Interesting.
And QNet itself has faced intense legal scrutiny in multiple countries.
Really?
Yeah, some even calling it a pyramid scheme.
Oh.
There's a lot to unpack there.
This is starting to sound like a real thriller.
Yeah.
So let's break down QNet a bit more. Why has it faced so much legal trouble?
Well, multi-level marketing, by its very nature, can be controversial.
I can see that.
The line between legitimate business practices and pyramid schemes can get blurry.
Yeah, for sure.
Authorities around the world have accused QNet of misleading people with promises of wealth and focusing more on recruitment than product sales.
I see. So the focus shifts from selling products to constantly bringing in new recruits who invest money.
Exactly.
And then those at the top benefit the most.
Yeah. In some cases, the money invested by new recruits primarily benefits those higher up in the structure, rather than going toward actual product sales.
Gotcha.
That's what authorities have been scrutinizing with QNet, and several of their executives have even been arrested.
Wow. Okay, so what's the connection to SIF?
Right.
Have there been any proven financial links between QNet and SIF?
So that's where things get murky.
Okay.
While there's no concrete evidence of direct money flowing from QNet to SIF, those concerns exist given the close relationship between Butler and Bismarck.
Okay.
And there's another piece of the puzzle that adds to the intrigue.
Oh.
A major SIF financial backer
Okay.
and Patrick Bowler
Right.
was arrested
Oh,
and
no.
forced to forfeit millions of dollars in assets.
Wow. Okay, this is really starting to sound like a conspiracy thriller.
It is.
So what happened after Bowler's arrest?
Well, according to some sources, SIF allegedly started demanding increased donations from its followers shortly after Bowler's legal troubles began.
So it seems like there might have been an attempt to make up for the lost funding
Potentially.
from Bowler.
Yeah.
That raises even more questions about SIF's financial practices and how those funds are being used.
For sure.
This whole narrative about Butler, SIF, and QNet is fascinating.
It is.
But what does it all mean for Tulsi Gabbard?
Right.
How does she fit into this web of relationships and allegations?
That's the key question we're trying to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll explore in part 2 of this deep dive.
We will.
Stay with us. We're just getting started.
Absolutely.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're unraveling the connections between Tulsi Gabbard,
Right.
the Science of Identity Foundation, and the allegations surrounding them. Before the break, we were talking about QNet.
Right. That multi-level marketing company.
Yeah, and its potential ties to SIF.
Yeah. And the financial aspect is just one layer of this story. To really understand SIF's potential influence on Gabbard, we need to look deeper into the organization's practices and the experiences of its former members.
You mentioned that some former members describe SIF as controlling and manipulative.
Yeah, I did.
What have they shared about their time within the organization?
Their accounts are really quite striking.
Oh.
Some describe a culture of fear and paranoia,
Wow.
where questioning Butler or his teachings was absolutely forbidden.
Really?
Yeah, there are accounts of Butler demanding absolute submission, even dictating the most minute details of his followers' lives.
That's pretty intense.
It is.
That's a far cry from the positive image that Gabbard paints of her upbringing in SIF.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific examples
absolutely.
of this controlling behavior?
Several former members have spoken about being pressured to wear masks and gloves
Oh, wow.
around Butler.
Really?
It's almost as if he had some kind of, extreme germophobia or something.
That's bizarre.
It is a little strange.
It seems like those hygiene practices go beyond just a personal preference.
Right, and it's not just about hygiene.
Ugh.
Former members describe a culture of unquestioning obedience
Mm-hmm.
and a constant fear of reprisal for any perceived deviation from Butler's teachings.
Oh, wow.
There's even an account of a disciple who was severely reprimanded for buying Butler a lei with SIF funds.
A lei.
Yeah, a lei.
That seems fairly innocuous. What was the problem?
Apparently, Butler saw it as a misuse of his personal money,
Even though it was SIF funds.
even though it was purchased with funds from the organization, yeah.
That's a bit unsettling.
It is.
It definitely speaks to a certain power dynamic within SIF.
Right.
Where Butler's wishes override any other considerations.
Yeah, pretty much.
There are also internal SIF letters that have surfaced, allegedly written by Butler himself, that shed further light on his leadership style.
That's right.
These letters contain language that some have described as angry and controlling, reinforcing the image of Butler as a highly authoritarian figure. So we have firsthand accounts and internal documents that seem to support the allegations of SIF being a controlling and manipulative organization.
Yeah.
How does this all tie back to Tulsi Gabbard?
That's where things get even more complicated.
Okay.
Gabbard has consistently denied any wrongdoing or undue influence from SIF, maintaining that her political decisions are guided by her own principles and beliefs.
I see.
Yeah.
But given her lifelong connection to SIF and Butler, it's natural to question how much her experiences within the organization might have shaped her worldview and political outlook.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that we're not just talking about abstract beliefs here.
Okay.
We're talking about concrete political actions.
Like what?
For example, Gabbard has defended India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Yeah.
A figure who has been accused of Hindu nationalism and discrimination against Muslims.
That's a controversial stance, to say the least.
Yeah, it is, especially for someone who wants to be seen as a progressive leader.
Exactly. And then there's her controversial meeting with Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad.
Oh, right.
A move that alienated many within her own party.
Yeah, for sure.
It's difficult to ignore these actions, especially in light of the allegations surrounding SIF and Butler.
Right.
Some critics have argued that Gabbard's political decisions are directly influenced by SIF's agenda or even its financial backing.
That's a serious accusation.
It is.
And while there's no concrete evidence to prove a direct link between SIF and Gabbard's political actions, The possibility of undue influence remains a subject of debate
Absolutely.
and scrutiny.
This is where the need for critical thinking comes in.
Yeah, it is.
We have to carefully weigh the evidence
Right.
and consider all angles before drawing any conclusions.
That's right.
And as we continue to explore the story, it's important to remember that there are nuances and complexities at play. There are no easy answers or black and white judgments to be made.
Nope.
The goal of this deep dive is not to tell you what to think,
Right.
but to present you with the information and the different perspectives so that you can form your own informed opinions.
Absolutely.
And part of that process involves understanding the concept of body parampara,
Right.
which has come up in discussions about Suf
Yeah.
and its relationship with traditional Hinduism.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have to admit, I'm not familiar with that term. Could you explain what body parampa means?
Sure.
Why it's relevant to our discussion?
Certainly. So in Vaishnava Hinduism, parampara refers to the lineage of spiritual masters
Okay.
and the transmission of knowledge from teacher to student.
Okay.
Body parampara takes this concept a step further,
Interesting.
emphasizing the physical presence and direct guidance of the guru as essential for spiritual progress.
So it's not just about learning the teachings,
Right.
but about having a direct personal connection with the living guru.
Exactly. And this is where Sif's interpretation of Vaishnava Hinduism diverges
Okay.
from more traditional schools of thought.
Interesting.
Critics of Sif argue that the organization's emphasis on complete obedience to Butler, on following his specific teachings and practices,
Yeah.
creates a kind of closed system that deviates from the core principles of the Vaishnava tradition.
So they're suggesting that Butler has positioned himself as the sole,
Right.
an unquestionable source of spiritual authority within Sif.
That's the essence of the criticism.
I see.
And it's a point of contention because traditional Vaishnava Hinduism emphasizes the importance of scripture,
Okay.
reason, and the collective wisdom of the lineage of gurus.
Right.
It's not solely focused on the pronouncements of one individual.
It makes sense. So how do Sif and its supporters respond to this criticism?
They argue that their interpretation of Hinduism is valid
Okay.
and that Butler is a legitimate spiritual leader.
Mm-hmm.
They emphasize the transformative power of following his guidance
Right.
and see the focus on body parampara as a strength, not a weakness.
So we have two very different interpretations of Vaishnava Hinduism at play here.
Yeah, we do.
And these differing interpretations raise important questions about how those beliefs might influence Gabbard's political decisions
Yeah, for sure.
and her approach to leadership.
That's a crucial point, and it's something we'll delve into further in the final part of this deep dive.
Okay.
We'll explore the potential implications of this story and examine the complex interplay of religion, politics, and money in a broader context.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring the connections between Tulsi Gabbard, the Science of Identity Foundation, and those allegations surrounding them.
Yeah.
And before the break, we were discussing body parampara
Right.
and how Sif's views on this principle differ from more traditional schools of Vaishnava Hinduism.
Yeah, and that difference is crucial because it really gets to the heart of the concerns about potential undue influence on Gabbard's political life.
Yeah.
Remember, she said that her faith and her politics are separate.
Right.
But critics say her close ties to Suf and Butler, make that separation difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It is.
So how do we, as engaged citizens, navigate this complex terrain? How do we even begin to assess the potential influence of a religious group on a political figure?
That's a question with no easy answers. And it's something that, each individual really has to grapple with based on their own values and understanding of the world.
Yeah.
But I think this deep dive has highlighted the importance of critical thinking and careful analysis.
Absolutely.
It's not enough to simply accept what we're told or to just dismiss something because it seems strange or unfamiliar.
I agree. We need to dig deeper, examine the evidence, and consider all sides of the story.
Absolutely.
And that includes listening to the voices of those who have been directly impacted by it.
Yeah.
Both those who remain devoted followers
Yeah.
and those who have left the organization.
Absolutely. Those firsthand accounts, they offer invaluable insights into the inner workings of SIF and the experiences of its members.
Right.
And those accounts, coupled with the analysis of Gabbard's political decisions and the allegations of financial impropriety, they provide a more complete picture for everyone to consider.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway for our listeners?
I think the most important takeaway is that, the line between personal beliefs and political actions, well, it's often blurry
Right.
and difficult to define. It's crucial to be aware of the potential for undue influence,
Yeah.
especially when dealing with groups or individuals who exert significant authority over their followers.
And this isn't just about Tulsi Gabbard or the Science of Identity Foundation.
No, not at all.
This is a broader issue
Yeah.
that applies to any situation where religious beliefs or affiliations might intersect with political power.
Absolutely. We need to be vigilant in asking questions, demanding transparency, and holding our leaders accountable for their actions and decisions, regardless of their religious beliefs or affiliations.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I want to encourage all of you listening to continue exploring this story and to engage in respectful dialogue with others who may have different viewpoints.
Yeah, that's important.
The goal isn't necessarily to reach a definitive conclusion,
Right.
but to develop a more nuanced and informed understanding of the complexities at play.
And remember, critical thinking is an ongoing process. Don't be afraid to, question your own assumptions,
Yeah.
to challenge your own biases, and to be open to new information and perspectives. That's how we grow, both as individuals and as a society.
Well said. This deep dive into the world of Tulsi Gabbard and the Science of Identity Foundation has been a journey, and we appreciate you joining us. We'll be back with another fascinating topic soon, but until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.